the big story of the day, and that's the BRICS Summit. It's really well underway now. They've concluded, the top nations concluding their opening remarks at the BRICS Business Forum. And our reporter, Heidi Giokos, joins us now. Heidi, thank you so much for joining us. Lovely to see you. So it was very interesting hearing the speeches from the 5 BRICS nations leaders or their representatives. So many of them, they all spoke about growing economies, about supporting developing economies. But for me, the Russian president used this opportunity also to take a serious swipe at the sanctions that have been imposed on his country. Talk to me about what you're hearing from your side.
Yes, certainly, Sally. We must just emphasize the fact that this is the first day of the BRICS Summit. We do know that it's set to take place from today until the 24th of August. And today being a very important day with the state visit from China at the Union buildings with President Cyril Ramaphosa, but also a number of other meetings that have taken place. For example, the ANC meeting with Brazilian President Lula da Silva. And, of course, you had the opening of the BRICS Summit with all countries speaking and really giving an indication of how they can further develop BRICS and their contribution in terms of what their country can contribute in terms of trade, economic developments, and really working together with all BRICS countries. But what's interesting here is that Putin, Russian President Vladimir Putin, did not appear physically. We all know because of the arrest warrant that has been issued out and the decision taken for him not to be here. But he did appear via video and really, as you mentioned, taking a swipe at the sanctions that have been imposed on Russia due to the Russian-Ukraine conflict that we are currently experiencing and seeing play out. We've heard President Cyril Ramaphosa speaking about the serious economic impact that we are all experiencing. And I also just want to emphasize before we listen to what Putin had to say about this, you know, I've just come from Europe, and you can seriously see the impact that war in Ukraine has had economically on specifically countries within Europe. And we are feeling it here in South Africa. It's a global impact. But the Russian president saying these sanctions are illegitimate and really speaking out on the fact that this should not be happening. Let's listen to the Russian president on this.
Решать все эти сложные, комплексные задачи
have to be dealt with amidst the increasing volatility in stock, currency, energy and food markets, coupled with strong inflationary pressures stemming from, inter alia, the irresponsible large-scale money emission by a number of countries seeking to mitigate the effects of the pandemic, which has led to the accumulation of private and public debt. International economic situation is also seriously affected by the illegitimate sanction practice and illegal freezing of assets of sovereign states, which essentially amounts to the tramping upon all the basic norms and rules of free trade and economic life, norms and rules that not so long ago seemed immutable. Resource shortages, increased inequality, rising unemployment, and aggravation of other chronic problems of the world economy are the direct consequences.
Yeah, so that's certainly going to be a talking point. But of course, the real reason for everyone gathered in Sandton here in Johannesburg is to talk business, something President Cyril Ramaphosa has stressed quite intensely, looking at how we can grow the economic ties between the BRICS countries, which are not actually as strong as they should be. Tell us a little bit more about what he said.
Yes, I think President Cyril Ramaphosa, everybody's looking at South Africa going, well, how can you have economic growth and contribution when we have an energy crisis that is really crippling this economy even further? It's a major problem. And what's interesting is that the Chinese delegation held a press briefing at around 4 o'clock this afternoon, Sally, to speak about how China can help in terms of economic growth and development in South Africa. And one of the key things that came out of that was a memorandum of cooperation that was signed today between China and South Africa, and the further particulars of that memorandum will be signed with the Minister of Electricity, Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, tomorrow morning between China and South Africa. And that is to possibly assist China, assisting South Africa in terms of further energy availability. They've actually called it emergency electricity that will possibly try and alleviate the pressure on the grid and try and prevent this persistent load shedding that we are seeing, which is at the end of the day really impacting economic growth. It's going to be crucial, of course, for further discussions with all the BRICS countries to figure out how we can grow our economy, China being the second largest economy in the world. Interesting, though, we did see the Chinese president also taking a swipe indirectly at the United States. We do know that there is a bit of conflict between these two world economies, and interestingly, you are seeing other countries saying they want to be part of BRICS, and a number of BRICS countries are a bit conflicted about getting other countries involved in this. But the president's, of course, stressing that there needs to be economic development. All countries need to work together, and also South Africa needs to find a way to increase its trade with other BRICS countries. Let's listen to President Cyril Ramaphosa.
The BRICS Business Council is a vital and vibrant platform for strengthening economic ties between our respective countries and in forging common perspectives on inclusive economic growth and development, as we have heard from the report that has just been tabled by Mr. Chabalala. The changes that have taken place in BRICS economies over the past decade have done much to transform the shape of the global economy. Together, the BRICS countries make up a quarter of the global economy. They account for a fifth of global trade and are home to more than 40% of the world's population. This agglomeration of these 5 countries has a major impact on various aspects of the global activity and life. As we celebrate the 15th anniversary of BRICS, trade between BRICS countries totaled some $162 billion last year. Foreign investment has played an important role in the growth of BRICS economies.
All right, so that's President Ramaphosa speaking at the official opening of the BRICS Summit. Of course, this summit continues tomorrow, Heidi, and we know that deals are already being made. There are so many people here. What are we expecting at the end of the summit?
Yes, some more MOCs, which are Memorandum of Cooperation, will most likely be signed tomorrow. But I think also top of agenda and a huge discussion point will definitely be whether or not the BRICS countries are in agreement of allowing and including other countries that have possibly shown interest. We do understand that the president of Malawi is also expected to just attend the summit, but has also shown some sort of interest in being part of BRICS, and whether or not that will actually be allowed, but also the possibility, Sally, or further discussion rather, around a currency that is formed when it comes to BRICS countries. That is definitely going to be a discussion, a further discussion and further elaboration on whether or not that is even possible at this particular stage. So a lot of conversation, a lot of discussion around how we can further develop all our economies and how all these countries can work together, as globally there are many challenges challenges. And one other challenge that I must emphasize is the massive climate issue that's also at play here, and how each country can contribute in creating a cleaner planet, because at the end of the day we do know that there is a massive issue when it comes to that.
Yeah, absolutely. All future plans have to include that transition away from dirty energy. Heidi Giokos in Sandton, thank you so much for bringing us the latest from the BRICS conference. Let's move